Guys, look at this. Fuchs literally threw cold water on Alexandre de Moraes. He ruined Xandão's party and took a well-done jab at Dino as well. They were completely dismayed. They weren't expecting Minister Luis Fuchs' reaction. The guy was a Terminator. I'll show you here. Based on his vote, Moraes will have a problem. He also said, I don't want to be interrupted when it's my turn to speak. Alexandre de Moraes wasn't expecting it. He started to get nervous. His bald head started to sweat. Dino went for coffee or something, I don't know. He might have gotten a stomachache. Go ahead and hit the like button. We have a lot of news and information to share. Everything that's happening, okay? You can't do those outrageous things to President Bolsonaro so easily. Starting the trial, Moraes said this, right? Moraes said this, huh? Look, only Alexandre de Moraes, the super ultra victim, investigator, accuser, prosecutor, everything, right? Here it goes.
Forgetting little by little that Brazil almost goes back to a dictatorship that lasted 20 years. Because of a criminal organization formed by a political group doesn't know how to lose elections. Because of a criminal organization formed by a political group led by Jair Bolsonaro doesn't know that alternation of power. It's a democratic Republican principle. Whoever loses becomes the opposition and runs in the next elections. Whoever wins takes office and tries to stay in power in the next elections.
Okay. Now let me show you something, okay? I had to change the microphone here because the battery was running out. But look how interesting things are here. So Bolsonaro staged a coup. These are some news from 2022. The Superior Electoral Court forbids Bolsonaro from using his United Nations speech in his election campaign. Carmen Lucia orders the removal of billboards supporting Bolsonaro in the federal district. Bolsonaro couldn't, but Lula could. The Superior Electoral Court prohibits Bolsonaro's campaign from using images from his visit to London. The Superior Electoral Court fined Bolsonaro 20,000 reais for a meeting with ambassadors. Carmen Lucia keeps videos in which Lula calls Bolsonaro a genocidal. The Superior Electoral Court has forbidden Bolsonaro from doing live streams at the Alvorada Palace. In his own house, which used to be his house, the Superior Electoral Court forbade it. He couldn't. Lula could when he was president, Dilma could, everyone could, except Jair Messias. The Superior Electoral Court ordered the removal of posts that associate Lula with the persecution of Christians. That's not what's happening. Take a look at Pastor Silas Malafaia. I don't know any other better example of a persecution than this, right? Moraes orders Bolsonaro's aides' phone records to be disclosed. The Superior Electoral Court orders removal of video linking Bolsonaro to Satanism. But this guy here at the time was supporting Lula. He was supporting Lula. Moraes blocks the profile of the judge and journalist Alano Santos on the Getter platform by Jason Miller. The Superior Electoral Court orders the removal of a video featuring Mara Gabriela and Jovem Pan. The Superior Electoral Court orders the removal of posts containing audio of Lula about Pelosi. The Superior Electoral Court orders Bolsonaro's ad removal where Zima criticizes Lula and the Workers' Party. Gilmar suspends Lula's 18 million fine in the Operation Car Wash case. The poor guy. Moraes orders the takedown of websites of Ludmila Grigrillo, the judge who criticized the Supreme Court. The Superior Electoral Court follows Lula's requests and investigates Jovem Pan, just as Lula wanted. The Superior Electoral Court vetoes Ministry of Health's vaccination campaign for polio. Bolsonaro went to campaign for polio, which was extremely necessary. The Superior Electoral Court forbade Bolsonaro from promoting such an important action, which is very important. The polio campaign is very important. That's proven, right? And that's what we can say about it, right? The Superior Electoral Court orders Brazil Paralelo channel to delete videos that link Lula to corruption schemes. But he was prosecuted and arrested for that, but this couldn't happen. Everything was permitted against Bolsonaro, but now we're seeing an interesting reaction. Take a look. Fuchs went off like in a big way. The minister announces in less than 5 minutes of the session that he will disagree with Alexandre de Moraes' vote on the preliminary issues presented by the defense. Fuchs was the sole opponent of accepting the case, both at the Supreme Court and in the first panel. He wanted it sent to the plenary, but was interrupted at the trial's start. Oh, my friends. But the first one to get slammed was Dino. He even asked to go get some coffee. I don't really know if he really went for coffee or if he went to the bathroom after getting slammed. Let's take a look.
I see Your Excellency wants some water, so I'll say two things.
Coffee.
Coffee. First, regarding these issues related to single judge decisions, that was a clarification Your Excellency made in a single sentence, but it carries an essential note. From the moment this contributes to the consistency of the decisions from this court and from the Superior Electoral Court, in any board, any council,
They talk, and say nothing.
there are powers of the president, in our case, of the presiding officer or rapporteur in the chamber. This also happens in the Senate and in any council. What matters is that collegiality prevails and is manifested.
Just a point of order before Your Excellency's explanation. Mr. President, as we agreed in that room right next door.
As we agreed there in that room,
Of course, Minister. The ministers would vote directly without interventions from other colleagues, although Minister Flavio Dino's intervention was very appropriate. But I would like to stick to what we agreed upon when I cast my vote.
In this case, the rapporteur had given authorization.
Mr. President, I can grant it normally.
I'm not going to grant it as we had agreed.
man, look at Moraes. Look, I'll grant it, but I'm not going to grant it as we discussed earlier.
I grant it normally.
But I won't based on what we agreed back there in the room, because if a vote takes too long, we lose track of things, especially when eventually we show some.
But Mr. Fox,
But this it was asked of me, not Your Excellency.
I know, I remembered that.
I assure you, Minister Fuchs, that I won't ask that of Your Excellency. You can rest easy.
He was nervous. Then that guy, again, knocked back a shot.
Mr. President, just a point of order. Please, Your Excellency, you are voting on the preliminaries. I will reserve the right to return to them when it is my turn to vote. Because ever since the complaint was received, for the sake of consistency, I have always stated that if I am overruled on these points, I will return to this matter, even though I may be overruled again. Just like Your Excellency voting directly, I will also vote directly, but I will also address the preliminary matters.
thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Minister Fox.
Just noting that all these preliminary matters I've mentioned so far were voted on unanimously, including Your Excellency's vote. The one I mentioned, I will refer to
Upon the acceptance of the complaint,
upon the acceptance of the complaint. Exactly.
Upon the acceptance of the complaint,
we are in trial.
There is a preliminary issue.
look at what he says now, not during the trial.
The lack of jurisdiction of the Supreme Federal Court and, subsidiarily, the lack of jurisdiction of the first panel for processing and judgment was also dismissed at the time the complaint was received by majority vote, this one by majority vote. Minister Luis Fuchs was in the minority, holding that the plenary of the Supreme Federal Court should have jurisdiction.
There was more, there was more. You think that was it? He went head to head.
Just a point of order before Your Excellency's explanation. Mr. President, as we agreed in that room,
We've seen this part. The as we agreed in that room. It wasn't even for Moraes, it was for Zanin. It was for Zanin. Fox was like with a knife in his teeth. Moraes got irritated. Congressman Gil Diniz added, the exchange of barbs continued. Moraes seems annoyed by Minister Fox urging him to comply with the agreement.
And that's exactly what was happening.
just a point of order.
He interrupts again.
Before Your Excellency's explanation, Mr. President, as we agreed in that room,
And it's that part we've seen in all. The lawyer, Jeffrey Cicchini, talks about everything that's happening. He's a lawyer. He knows his stuff about the law. He knows he's also the party's lawyer and talks about it. Let's hear it.
Brazil is watching the most political trial in our country's history, and it's happening right now. I'm here, obviously, following it as well. And look what I noticed in the rapporteur's speech. Look at what he says about the criminal organization. But he didn't pay attention to a detail that was mentioned by the whistleblower. And I'm going to show it to Brazil. Check it out.
The accusation was made and the defenses were presented exactly in this context. The context is of a criminal organization under the leadership of Jair Messias Bolsonaro that during the period from July 2021 until January 8, 2023, this criminal organization, with a division of tasks and in a permanent and hierarchical way, which characterizes the crime of a criminal organization, carried out several executive acts.
Did you pay attention to what he said? He said there was a criminal organization. But apparently he forgot what Mauro Cid said. He disregarded what Mauro Cid already said in a court hearing. The whistleblower answered a question by saying that there wasn't a criminal organization, that there wasn't a structurally organized group with a division of tasks to carry out a coup. Take a look. He wanted to forget, but I'll remember.
Please. During your televised interrogation on the Justiça channel, you said, and I quote, that there was no structurally organized group with a division of tasks. They were isolated braggarts the president mostly ignored.
Does your statement that there is no structurally organized group planning a coup hold up?
When I made the division, it was to make understanding easier, to encourage collaboration. So it could be clear the feeling and motivation of the people who approached the president.
Was there a structurally organized group to overthrow the democratic rule of law?
You can't know their intentions, counsel.
Was there a structurally organized group?
He already said no, counsel. Let's proceed.
Moraes clearly interrupts Dr. Cicchini. When the answer that Cid was going to give didn't fit, didn't match what he was trying to say.
There wasn't, but the indictment mentions a criminal organization.
He doesn't know. He's unaware. Come on, counsel.
Did you pay attention to that? Minister Alexandre de Moraes himself answered on behalf of Cid. He said no, that there was no structurally organized group with a division of tasks. That's the concept of a criminal organization. Mauro Cid said in the presence of the rapporteur that there was no criminal organization to stage a coup.
That was clear. It's crystal clear. Cid speaks clearly here that there wasn't. Moraes brings the issue to him. Look here, I'll even show the image. Cicchini won't get upset since he's...
Was a structurally organized group?
He already said no, counsel. Let's proceed.
The question was for Cid, not for Moraes.
The feeling and motivation of the people who approached the president.
Was there a structurally organized group to overthrow the democratic rule of law?
That's a clear question. Was there a goal or a group that wanted to... Cid didn't reply. Moraes answered for him, speaking on behalf of the man making the plea bargain.
He can't know people's intentions, counsel.
Was there a structurally organized group?
He already said no, counsel. Let's proceed.
Is Moraes the lawyer or the judge of the case? I can't understand this.
There wasn't, but the indictment mentions a criminal organization.
He doesn't know. He's unaware. Come on, counsel.
Did you guys pay attention to that? Minister Alexandre de Moraes himself answered for Cid. He said no.
That's the fact. And a lot of justice, right? That's a lot of justice. Cid's answer was going to dismantle everything they're trying to put in place. And then Moraes responds for the guy who's making the plea bargain. Not even Cid's lawyer would do that. But Moraes, who's the judge here for the cause, does. Share this video on WhatsApp, on Telegram, on Facebook. Great fucks, great fucks. He nailed it. It's getting harder every day for these characters to keep up the narrative. That's a fact. But go ahead and hit the like button, share it here on YouTube because it helps with engagement. interact here with us and with our content and be a part of our family. I'll return soon with more info here on Paisiphilius.